Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday, where we go through weekly tips and tricks to make your career just a little bit more awesome. This week we are talking about the power of process. So we're talking to those of you who are looking to make changes this year, but you're not really sure how, right? Often when I start working with new clients, it's because they feel paralyzed, right? They feel like they want to make some sort of change, but they're not really sure how. And so as a result, they feel stuck because if they're not quite sure what it is that they're trying to do or how it looks, how are they going to find the steps to make it all happen? Feels really, really insurmountable. I get it. I've been there. We've all been there. Totally normal. Paralysis like this is common, and it's why I wanted to talk this week about the ultimate counter to paralysis, which is process. So you see, if you are trying to make a change, you need to know how to do it. Simple enough, right? This is why we have all these things like guides for couch to 10K, or right, if you want to run your first half marathon, but you've never run one before, you don't just sit there and dwell on, oh my gosh, I have to go from not running at all to running 13 miles. You don't think about it at that level. You think about it in a lot of little steps compounded. So this is why people have wonderful training plans. Speaking as someone who has used one of those before, and you have training plans where you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about running 13 miles today. I just have to worry about going 1 mile this week, then 2 miles next week, adding and adding and adding until you get more comfortable with it. This is a perfect example of process and the benefit to it and why it really counters paralysis. Because when we feel overwhelmed by all that needs to be done, we need to take a step back and focus on the first step. That's how process can work in your favor. And so if we're missing out on process, we tend to get stuck in this kind of daydream but no action mode, and that's not really the place we want to hang out. So that's why my tip for you this week is simple. I want you to ask yourself, if there's a change you're trying to make and it's feeling challenging, I want you to ask yourself, do I have a clear process in place that I need to follow to get from not knowing to knowing, or from whatever it is, right? From having never run a marathon to running a marathon. Is there something I need to do to get from not being sure in my career to making this transition in my next role? Whatever that leap is that you're trying to make, I want you to ask if you have process in place to help you get there, because if you don't, all you're doing is making this so much harder for yourself. And if you don't, right, then make sure you get some in place. That's why this work that I do with clients is so potent, because we take this thing that can feel really overwhelming, that's a big life decision, and instead of having them stay in stuck mode where they say, oh my God, and I kind of want to change and I'm not sure what that's going to look like, and what does that actually mean for my job, and a million other questions, we stop and we give them process. So all they have to think about is, this week you're doing this homework to try and get clear on X, Y, and Z. Next week that rolls into the next thing. Right? That is the power of process, and that's why this work is so impactful. And so ask yourself, do I have process in place? And if not, get yourself some. So if you're needing process when it comes to making a transition into a more fulfilling career, reach out to me. Otherwise, reach out to someone who has the kind of process that you need support with this week. So that is my tip. That is my challenge to you, to go reach out and ask yourself, do I have support? And if not, get some, because it's going to help you, and I guarantee you're going to be happier in the long run. So start there, and in the meantime, happy working.